Welcome to the crossroads of fate. I am the Guardian, and where I stand represents the exact point to which an Earth decision is being made. Every decision, big or small, has its own designated landmass, each with its own individual gateways. These gateways, in turn, represent possibilities, each one leading to a different outcome, a different fate. Some of these landmasses only have two tunnels, heads or tails. Others have hundreds of possible destinations. Now it is not my duty to decide. More often than you'd think, what would be viewed by mortal man as the incorrect path is indeed the one taken. It is my duty, once the decision is made, to travel down its corresponding tunnel and make sure the prize at the end is claimed. Which range from personal satisfaction, blind rage, instant regret, victory, or defeat. Once the dominoes are set in a specific pattern, there is no moving they as they fall. There is no avoiding fate. This particular chamber, what do we have here? Seems as if something earth-shattering is happening on Kikaiga Island. A small group of people have arrived from the sprawling yet quaint Japanese town of Narima. The Renaissance man of martial arts, Ranma Tome. His hot-headed fiancée, Akane Tendo. His oafish, bamboo-eating father, Genma Tome. The financially endowed, Tatewaki Kuno. The explosive with the lit fuse, Ryoga Hibiki. The Amazon ass-kicker, Shampoo. The short, yet powerful little pervert, Happosai. And finally... Ryoga again? Ryukumon, I guess. They are carrying the equipment for a picnic, but that would not be their focus on this day, for they are about to get a visit from the omnipotent being, Shin Goki! A supernatural Oni from another world. Shin Goki is a creature of immeasurable, unmitigated power. Left unchecked, his power could destroy the fabric of reality itself in unbiased fashion. Thankfully, the brave warrior Momotaro was able to seal away his powers with 8 magical spirit wards, tied tightly to 8 mystical stones. For centuries, he has remained locked away by the spirit wards, trapped in an invisible cage, salivating to once again roam the earth, devouring all. Though his power had been effectively locked away, he could still roam about the island in spirit form, his visage reduced to a lone, gray, horned head. Though his destructive powers were negated in this form, there was still one trick he could pull off. He possessed the ability to corrupt the human mind through hypnosis, and he found himself quite the worthy emissary. Sweet demure little Rouge, naive to a fault, easily controlled, and already in possession of such power. A power granted by the waters of Jusenkyo, the power of the Azra! 6 arms of wrath! For Shingoki to poison her mind and make she his personal marionette, she would have little trouble gathering the stones and destroying they once and for all in sacred ceremony. Once free from his interdimensional solitude, he would still need a corporeal form to hold his essence. Who better than Rouge, a creature with a dark power all her own? When imbued with the soul of Shingoki, there is little left of the girl. Her once innocent heart turned to hate. She dare not need plant shoe to earth. Why sully her immaculate self when she can hover a foot off the ground? Fluttering about like a phantom, this dark Rouge can clear large distances with speed impossible to keep up with. She can, and will, effectively establish a space cushion between she and her opposition, and in a most powerful and incredibly cheap new signature move, she can shoot barrages of giant purple orbs square at her foe. The orbs themselves are not fatal. they act as a taser turned up to 11, causing instant paralysis to the opponent. Alright, maybe turned up to about a 9. This in itself is especially harsh, as she typically throws about 9 orbs in a row, all homed in on one spot. If that first one tags her opponent, he is stopped dead just long enough for the next one to hit. To put it bluntly, the first one hits ya, so will the rest, and there's nothing that can be done about it. This attack she will abuse with reckless abandon. A fight with demon-possessed Rouge is one forever bathed in purple light. But that is not all. Her strength in melee combat has been exponentially increased. Even a swift jab or kick from her slight body will cause her opponent to go flying and sap the precious red from his health bar. So prodigious is the power of Shin Goki, it is unnecessary to become the Azra, though one could only imagine what fate would befall the Earth if she did. How? In the name of heaven! Oh, how can humanity stand up to such an onslaught? Pro tip! This battle will be taking place in similar arenas to Tekken or Battle Arena Toshinden, where pugilists have the ability to sidestep. The sidestep is key to defeating Shin Goki at his demented game. If one can manage to successfully dodge that first fireball, Rouge is helpless but to keep firing the rest in that exact same direction, giving the opponent ample time to move in closer and to close that gap. True, she will keep spamming that same attack, and the closer one gets, the harder that attack will be to avoid. But if the opponent can continue sidestepping that first purple orb, narrowing that distance more and more, eventually there will be nothing between he and the possessed lady herself, and that's when the iron is hot to strike with a punch, kick, or the right special technique. When she feels like she's taking a pounding, she will quickly hover away, establishing that distance all over again, repeating the process. The fight will be arduous, but a winnable scenario when adapting the strategy. While the approach of each of the players during the time of Armageddon should be the same, their methodology, their impetus, their fates will be drastically different from one another. At this moment in time, the true champion has yet to step forward, but through each of these tunnels is a different story with a different end. Perhaps you would like to take a peek?
He was baffled as to what they were all doing there, for Kuno was usually not the one to include such low-class riffraff as Ranma on his excursions. But as Kuno pontificated further, he revealed this island, Kikaiga Island, contained a secret, the Demon Treasure. A treasure he intended to claim for his own selfish purposes. The treasure was somehow connected to these 8 mysterious stones. Whether actually contained physically within or whether together they acted as a key to the treasure, no one knew for sure. Kuno only knew that the acquisition of the stones was step 1, and perchance, the path to infinite wealth and power would materialize on its own. Ranma realized he was being used as a pawn for Kuno's selfish desires, but the temptation was too great for he to turn down. If it came down to it, he could easily take Kuno out, and the demon treasure would be his. As he circumnavigated the island alongside Akane, they came across Rouge, who revealed that she too was after the stones, that it was her mission from God to unearth the demon treasure. So important was her mission, she immediately grabbed Akane and whisked her away, saying to Ranma as she fled that if he valued his fiancée's life, he would not interfere. Ranma, of course, had too much bravado to play that. He would rescue his beloved fiancée, but even more importantly, he would score that treasure. After fighting through his own comrades to acquire each and every stone, he found himself face to face with Rouge. He had fallen directly into her trap. With all the spirit wards together in one place, all it took was their destruction. to free her demon master Shingoki and imbue her body with his immortal essence. Ranma and Shingoki tussled in a most egregious end battle where fire flew on both sides. In the end, Ranma stood tall, his wounds deep, his energy spent, and his arm raised in victory. And to the victor go the spoils, i.e. Akane Tendo. Ranma grumbled about having to once again rescue his useless fiancée. As usual, the snippy, tomboyish Akane verbally lambasted Ranma about once again having been put in harm's way, and for a while the two traded insults like they typically do. But on this day, a change was warranted, and it was Akane who swallowed her pride and gave Ranma a simple thank you. Maybe these two were the most combustible couple on the planet Earth. Maybe they've said horrible things to each other, done worse things, but thank you. That was a start. Ryoga Hibiki was brought to Kikaiga Island shores as a mere spectator, a witness to the quote-unquote greatness of Tatewaki Kuno. Kuno exclaimed that he would take great pleasure in unearthing this island's demon treasure. With that, Ryoga became lost in Kuno's words. A demon treasure, a promise of great wealth and power. We would all love to be more rich. We would all love to be more powerful. More importantly, in the Lost Boy's mind, a man with riches and power would be seen as more desirable to the fairer sex. His arch-rival Ranma Saotome would be so small and pathetic compared to he. If Ryoga could nab the 8 sacred stones before anyone else and figure out how they work, he could finally claim his impossible prize, the love of Akane Tendo. Rouge, like a vulture, hovered overhead absorbing Ryoga and Akane, seeing they as threats. She took it upon herself to barge in and kidnap Akane right before Ryoga's eyes, hoping it would make the Lost Boy turn tail and run. Obviously, she didn't know that Akane was Ryoga's one true motivator in life, and Ryoga embarked on a journey to rescue his wannabe beloved. Ryoga, cursed by an unretentive sense of direction, would use the stones to guide him there, and maybe the treasure would grant him the power to get Akane back.
Now where am I?
One by one, he trounced his comrades en route to the final boss, scoring he the stones they had acquired by force. Once they were all face first in the dirt, Ryoga found himself right where he needed to be, at Rouge's sanctuary. He demanded Akane be set free, but Rouge was non-compliant to say the least. With the stones together at last, she absorbed the power of Shingoki and wished to test out her newfound power. Ryoga, willing to die for Akane's sake, took her on. The sky set aglow with purple orbs and Shishi Hokodans. The battle was a sight to behold. Shingoki's godlike power was truly extraordinary, but Ryoga was in possession of a power even greater, his love for Akane. On that day, tapping into a heart overflowing with passion, he too was a god, and as the dust settled on the battleground, the possessed Rouge was left bruised and battered, as Shingoki's essence leaked away into the clouds high above. Now reunited with Akane, Ryoga's job was far from complete. It would take much more than rescuing Shi from a vile fiend to win her heart. Hell, you could call being kidnapped Akane's favorite hobby. Ryoga, with Akane by his side, scoured every individual inch of the island, through brush, through river, through mountain, through sand, trying to find the legendary Demon Treasure. Sure, even a fool would realize the Demon Treasure was Shingoki himself. With him gone, so is the treasure. But better to not tell Ryoga that. Let the boy do what he does best, and that's get lost. And oh boy, this time round, did he ever. What a surprise it was to hear Kuno's grand declaration and the existence of the Demon Treasure. The rough-and-tumble Akane Tendo was all for the thrill of competition, more than eager to challenge her company in this portentous scavenger hunt, with Ranma desperately trying to hold back his excitement, tagging along. Not before they even found the first stone, they encountered Rouge. At first, Rouge felt threatened, but soon realized that Akane's interest in the treasure was no different than an excited child hunting down eggs on Easter morning. She did not comprehend the magnitude of the situation. Ha ha! She chortled in her mirth. You two haven't a clue of the Demon Treasure's deep, dark secret. Whoops. Now they knew. Rouge had committed a major faux pas, implanting the idea of a deep, dark secret in Akane's head, giving her newfound fervor to find the treasure. Who knew? Maybe others would find out. Rouge, embarrassed and acting on impulse, whisked Ranma away in her clutches, leaving Akane alone to scope out the stones. With each member of her party also collecting and acquiring a single stone each, Akane would have to convince they to hand their treasures over to her. Luckily, just by pure chance, Akane had packed herself a little ace in the hole to give her a leg up on the competition. That's right, Army. The sentient, cursed suit had tagged along on the ride, giving Akane the extra power and ability she needed to topple her adversaries. Through a good share of snarling and brawling, she collected the rocks in no time and found Ranma in need of rescue. The jealous Akane accused Ranma of diddling with the Lady Rouge, and the two fought it out in a lover's quarrel of sorts. No need to be alarmed, this is quite normal for them. Getting it out of their systems, they hunted down the devious Rouge. Finding she at her den of resurrection, Akane watched in horror as Rouge destroyed the stones and allowed the demon Shingoki to invade and taint her person. Since this journey was largely hers, it seemed only fitting Akane would be the one to bring this demon down. Funny, although Shingoki was supposedly this invincible demigod, he was no match for Akane's brutishness. And Rouge was left on her knees, grasping every fleck of Shingoki's being as it floated away in defeat. Akane Tendo, ever the noble warrior, took it upon herself to build a monument to Shingoki, so this day would always be remembered, so she could show respect to a worthy opponent. Unfortunately, Akane isn't the artsy, crafty type, and the monument, let's face it, looked like a pile of random garbage barfed up by the sea. Our harrowing tale ends with Akane gritting her teeth in anger as Ranma vocally rips on Akane's pathetic creation. Oh, poor deluded Shampoo. A Chinese Amazon out her element, hanging all over a boy who didn't share her feelings and couldn't make it any more obvious. Upon hearing Tatewaki Kuno's rousing speech and learning about the demon treasure, she flash-forwarded to her future, to have a huge, lavish, perfect wedding with Ranma Saotome, to start a long, happy life together. A demon's treasure would build a nice, healthy foundation for that, maybe to fully fund the rest of their perfect lives! The Lady Rouge, however, had something to say about that. Acting especially vain with her face hidden by a mask, she warned Ranma not to interfere, and as a bargaining chip, she kidnapped Ranma, threatening his bodily harm should Shampoo even think about scoping out that treasure.
Is it me, or is this getting redundant? It'll get better with the next few, trust me.
So, Shampoo, fueled by the ever-potent power of one-way love, vanquished all who stood in her way of wrangling those magical stones. With 7 down and 1 to go, she happened upon a dazed Ranma, all by his lonesome, slowly making his way back to the others. Shampoo told him to stay put and wait for her while she looked for that final stone, but Ranma wouldn't have any part of it. He tried to sneak away, but Shampoo intercepted, realizing the only way to get he to cooperate was by force. After pummeling him to a bloody pulp, she tied him up, rendering he immobile, and scored the final stone, putting her on a beeline to Rouge and the final battle. With the sweet taste of revenge on her lips and thoughts of an impending honeymoon in her mind, Shampoo confronted Rouge at the designated spot. Shampoo was shocked to see the secret of the treasure unfold before her eyes, the resurrection of the demon Shin Goki within Rouge's unassuming vessel. Shampoo handled this problem the same way she handled every problem big and small, with extreme, screaming Amazonian violence! Theirs was perhaps the most vicious battle, like 2 buzzsaws scraping against one another, testing each other's mettle. At the end, Rouge just barely tapped out. Shingoki abandoned his broken chassis, and Shampoo sheathed her kitty claws. Dead to rights, Rouge was willing to accept her just desserts. But, in Shampoo's understanding, to kill Rouge, that would be too counterproductive. Why not allow the woman to repay her debt little by little, as a personal wedding planner and servant? And so, Shampoo dragged off her would-be fiancé Ranma Saotome by the arm, whilst the humbled Rouge followed in her every footstep, gone from serving one demon to another. Ryu was one of the few amongst his ranks who already knew about Shingoki. He knew about his power. He knew about the 8 stones and what they did. He knew everything. Of course, a power-hungry man such as Ryu would be well studied on any gainable power in the universe. By agreeing to be a part of this group picnic, Ryu had conned Kuno into bringing him to Kikaiga Island, where he would have a major leg up on his competition in locating and destroying the stones, and he was well prepared for the results. What he didn't prepare for was a woman outside their ranks, Kikaiga's resident nomad, Rouge, who was just as hungry for Shingoki's power. To Ryu, she looked way too weak and pathetic to compete with the likes of him, but he admired her spunk, and thus, the race was on. Ryu had brute force squarely in his corner. One by one, his opponents crumbled like dojos with cracked foundations, and one by one, Ryu snatched and obliterated the sacred stones. With the last one gone, the path to the treasure was lit, and Rouge, ever the sound strategist, was not just there to receive the signal, but she had a massive head start. Ryu was pissed to find that Rouge had beaten him to the finish line. She was free to steal his treasure right out from under his nose. The power of Shingoki coursing through her veins, right in front of a guy most envious of that power. Ryu, thankfully, had a power of his own. Yamasen Ken! And rather than cry over spilled milk, he let this day be the ultimate test for his abilities. Both sides showed no quarter in the melee that ensued, and Ryu more than held his own against the monster. The power of Yamasen-ken impressed even he, as he whittled away at his superior, brick by brick, until she ultimately toppled. The great Shingoki was no more great than the capability of Ryu's fists. Ryu, standing on a rickety rock structure, reveled in his supreme yet Pyrrhic victory. There was only one thing that could satisfy his longing heart at that moment, and that was to boast this huge accomplishment to his arch-nemesis Ranma Saotome. Ranma, of course, didn't want to hear it, but that mattered not to Ryu, as he boorishly made his grand exit, and, not paying attention to where he stepped, lost his footing on a crumbling rock formation, falling into the mud like a world-class chump. Poor, powerful Ryu, able to stop a god dead in its tracks. There he stood helpless, waist-deep in the mire. The tale of Genma is pretty standard stuff. He as well was studied on the demon Shingoki, and knew sort of what it entailed. He wanted to be the first to find that demon treasure because he craved that power, yes. In fact, he continually racked his brain trying to figure out the logistics of becoming stronger, but almost more so that everyone in his group would be so jealous of him. Ranma prodded his pop to try to find out more information, but Genma didn't want to share with anybody. Typical Genma. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was his thirst for knowledge. Maybe it was eagerness to show everybody up. But Genma was a man on fire! 2 faces of fear! Vanquishing one opponent after the next en route to the ultimate prize. With more than a healthy sweat sogging up his gi, he busted up the spirit wards and lit the way to the checkered flag. He followed the trail like a dog with a scent, though he still didn't know exactly why. When he arrived at Rouge's den, he was surprised to see that she had beaten him there, and even more surprised to see the chain reaction caused by the stones he felled, surging through her body, invading every muscle. Rouge and Shingoki, now one, looked at Genma as a fitting test for this brand, spanking new power. Poor Genma got into defense mode and fended off every passing bombardment his opponent sent his way. He remained motivated in combat, convinced that all he would need to do is defeat this heinous monster, and he might be able to take that power for himself! Against all odds, quite possibly using a lot of continues, Genma managed to squeak by and defeat the possessed young vagabond in a sortie of fists and fire! Shingoki decreed as he wafted out the woman's pores, "I have been defeated. I must float away to heaven." Genma cried and shouted at his prize not to go, but it was too little too late, as he feebly watched Shingoki's spirit seep into the clouds. As Genma frisked his brilliant, battle-toughened mind, he thought, what is it to become stronger? In deep meditation, he pondered the possibilities, the ramifications of the Saotome school of martial arts, and so deep in thought was he barely even noticed his son burying him deep in the sand without a hint of respect. Almost impressive, old man, but not quite. Kuno brought the ragtag group of miscreants to the lush shores of Kikaiga Island, informing they of the demon treasure. Haposai's ears perked at the mere mention, for he knew about Shingoki and all the extra dynamism he could possibly stockpile. Happy, after all, is one of the most evil beings in the universe. Surely he is aware of all those in his company. There could only be one thing that could possibly cause he to deter off of his path, and that was a hot young dame. Rouge appeared before the pint-sized little hermit, and even through a mask, she tingled Happosai as a heavenly vision of perfection. Pleading her case, Rouge exclaimed that she wanted the sacred stones for herself, but a boatload of 8 marauders had just arrived on the island, all greedy to ascertain those same stones for their own nefarious purposes. She promised the old lech that if he could help her subdue these threats, she would consider taking him out on a date. Seeing himself as Rouge's valiant white knight, and totally forgetting about Shingoki in the process, Happy rushed to the aid of his princess, turning his attention to his fellow picnickers. He engaged and soundly defeated all of them, the loud sounds of the Happodai Kareen peppering the calm tropical ambiance. He left they laying in a smoldering heap, wondering why they were on the receiving end of such brutality. With Ranma and company down for the count, that left only 2, and Rouge faced her grizzled knight at an undisclosed location, this time without her mask, much to Happosai's delight. But Happy wouldn't be getting any sugar on this night, for as he throttled the interlopers at his beloved's behest, turned out his math was all off. He only defeated 7. There was one more island intruder standing in Rouge's way in need of being squashed. That one was Happosai himself. And at the birth chamber of Shingoki, Rouge and the demon sharing one mind and one body, she had more than enough tools to do so. Shingoki was a being of pure seething evil, an evil so real it burned to the touch. But Happosai could be the most villainous creature on this planet, and Shingoki, so sure of victory, vastly underestimated the little pervert. Happosai hated to do it. She was still a hot piece of ass, but he administered the finishing blow, and the battle came to a close. Shingoki wallowed into the sky with his tail in between his legs, and Rouge, not wanting to be left alone with such a creep, floated up right alongside. Happosai was a distraught old man, missing out on the fruits of his extra-intensive labor. But like any committed debaucherer, he quickly moved on to the next best option. He tried to have a nice cleansing cry in girl-type Ranma's bosom, but kapow! Ranma acted in kind with a perfect swing. Hey, next time you're looking up at the night sky, that new bright light to the left of Arcturus? That's Happosai. Of everyone traveling amongst his cadre, Tatewaki Kuno had the most clear-cut motives. This was not his first dance on the shores of Kikaiga Island. In fact, he happened to own a summer home there, and at the time he was overseeing the construction of an amusement park. In time, he would convert the entire island to a fun family resort, another cash cow for the aristocratic house of Kuno, a vacation spot more sought after than Disney World. It's Kuno Island! But as his bulldozers gouged at the natural beauty, he learned more about this chunk of land to which he stumbled upon, about the demon treasure. Kuno needed not learn any more about the treasure than its existence. He just wanted it for himself. He believed everything that sparkled and shined in the world was rightfully his. Simply put, Kuno was so great in every which way, he deserved everything. So he brought the most capable people he knew, people he would normally classify as fools and rubes, and entertained they with the tale of the demon treasure, hoping they would take the bait and save he the monkey work of combing every inch of the island for the stones. They fell for it, predictably, and Kuno's unknowing workforce set out on a barbarous free-for-all, locating and collecting the stones, with the Blue Thunder sweeping in to pick the bones. It worked like a dream. Before long, he had acquired them all and lit the way to the last act. He found Rouge there, waiting for him, at the foot of where his summer home once stood, now reduced to a smoking pile of rubble. Once the stones had been destroyed, the demon seal had been broken, expelling the very energy that laid waste to his mansion. No matter, it was a mere trifle for Kuno. He'd have another built in its place, granted he survived the upcoming fight. Rouge was not about to hand over her treasure, the demon Shingoki, to such an undeserving combatant, and she macerated with his demonic miasma, becoming herself a goddess. Armed with his trusty staff, only Kuno and the power of Senpuken stood in the way of this horrible demon taking over the earth. Good lord. But Kuno's narrow-mindedness may have been his secret weapon, as he was so steadfast in defending Kuno Island, his future meal ticket. He operated at a level he had never before. With one final whack of the wooden blade, he smote the demon and the lady all in one fell swoop. With Shingoki's defeat, the whole island began to quake. Kuno thought, well, the island is showing me vulnerability. I shall take this weak, quivering land under my wing and turn it into a prospering nation as its sovereign ruler. And as Kuno stood proudly in his victory, the ground continued to shake harder and harder until eventually the whole island sank. Was the island so pleased to be ruled by Kuno it couldn't withstand the pleasure? Ah, Kuno, such a sin to be so perfect.
And that, my friends, marks the end of our journey. All 8 possibilities, all 8 schisms of a most critical point in history. You should consider yourself very fortunate. Not many get to see differing variations of a single timeline. Just make sure you keep it between us, okay? You know how it is. You tell a friend, he tells 10 of his friends, and before long we have a long line of people trying to get in here to catch a peek. What's that? The tunnel in back of me? Oh, you don't want to go in there. No, I'm serious. Off with you now. Okay, I can see you're not going anywhere. I suppose you are at least owed an explanation. This is the 9th tunnel in this scenario. This is what would happen if none of our heroes were triumphant, and the demon Shingoki won in the end. Oh yeah, it could happen. Very easily, in fact. But I would much like not to take a peek into this one, so let's leave well enough alone, okay? 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 Oh, alright, but just one quick look. Oh, worry me, I have a feeling I'm going to regret this.
This profile was brought to you in part by JW Studios.